The arrival of the Void Watchers. The Confederation of United Galaxies had existed for 15,000 years. During that time, they had seen countless civilizations emerge from their home planets and venture into the cosmos. Some joined peacefully. Others required persuasion. A few had to be eliminated before they became problems. The Confederation was not cruel, but they were practical. Order had to be maintained. Supreme Commander Kilaros stood on the observation deck of the Starbreaker, the flagship of the Confederation's Northern Fleet. He was a Valoran, a species known for their tactical brilliance and unwavering loyalty to the Confederation. His skin had a pale blue tint, and his eyes were completely black, able to see across multiple light spectrums. He had served for 200 years and had overseen the integration of 47 new species into the Confederation. Today's mission was supposed to be simple. 3 months ago, long-range scouts had detected signs of a new spacefaring civilization in Sector 447, a region previously thought to be uninhabitable due to its proximity to several unstable nebula and radiation fields. The new species called themselves humans, originating from a planet they named Earth, in a system they called Sol. Initial scans showed promise. The humans had developed basic, faster-than-light travel within the last decade. Their population was concentrated on their homeworld, with small colonies on 2 neighboring planets. Their ships were crude, but functional. Their weapons were primitive projectile-based systems with some early energy weapons. In other words, they were exactly where most species were when the Confederation found them. Kilaros had brought a standard integration fleet, 20 warships, each capable of orbital bombardment, 50 support vessels carrying diplomats, translators, scientists, and trade specialists. It was more than enough to impress any emerging civilization and demonstrate the Confederation's power. The humans would see the fleet, realize they were outmatched, and accept the Confederation's offer of membership. Then, everyone could go home. The journey to human space took 6 days. During that time, Kilaros reviewed the intelligence reports. The humans were bipedal mammals with relatively short lifespans compared to most Confederation species. They had a violent history, having fought numerous wars among themselves before finally achieving a unified planetary government. Their culture valued innovation, competition, and something they called freedom. That last part concerned Kilaros slightly. Species that valued freedom too highly sometimes resisted integration. On the 6th day, the fleet emerged from hyperspace at the coordinates provided by the scouts. They were at the outer edge of the Sol system, near a gas giant the humans called Neptune. Kilaros expected to see a small patrol ship or monitoring station. Instead, his sensors detected nothing. The area was empty. Communications Officer Thessa, a female Valoran, with sharper features than Kilaros, looked up from her console with confusion on her face. "Commander, I am not detecting any human vessels in this sector." The scouts reported regular patrol routes through this area. Kilaros frowned. "Scan the inner system. Perhaps they have altered their patterns." Thessa worked her console for several minutes. Her expression grew more troubled with each passing moment. "Commander, I am detecting something unusual. There are multiple large mass signatures throughout the system, but they are not matching any known ship configurations." Before Kilaros could respond, every alarm on the bridge began screaming simultaneously. The lights shifted to emergency red. Officers shouted reports from every station. The tactical display lit up with dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of new contacts. "Commander, we are surrounded," Tactical Officer Brennick roared. His species, the Crothans, were massive warriors covered in thick scales. Even he sounded shaken, contacts appearing on all sides. They were cloaked. We could not detect them until now. Kilaros felt his blood turn cold. Around his fleet, space itself seemed to come alive. Ships appeared from nowhere as cloaking fields dropped. But these were not the primitive vessels the scouts had described. These were warships, hundreds of them, and they were massive. The smallest human vessel was twice the size of Kilaros's flagship. They were angular and aggressive in design, covered in what could only be weapon systems. Their hulls were a dark gray that seemed to absorb sensor beams, and they were everywhere, surrounding the Confederation fleet in a perfect sphere formation. But it was the ship at the center of the formation that made Kellerus forget how to breathe. It was beyond massive. It was a mobile fortress, a city in space, a monument to engineering that should not have been possible. The ship was shaped like a wedge, sharp at the front and widening toward the rear. Its hull bristled with weapons of every size. Kellerus counted at least 50 main cannons, each one larger than his entire ship. "Commander," the sensors officer called out, her voice trembling. "That central ship is reading at 112 kilometers in length. Its power output is greater than our entire fleet combined." "That is impossible," Kellerus whispered. "The humans were barely capable of basic spaceflight. They should not have this technology." "Commander, we are being hailed," Thessa said, audio and visual. Kellerus straightened his uniform and tried to project confidence he did not feel, except the transmission. The main view screen flickered and a human face appeared. It was a male Kellerus guessed, based on the facial structure. His skin was dark brown, and his hair was cut very short, with streaks of gray at the temples. His eyes were a striking amber color, and they studied Kellerus with an intensity that was unsettling. The human wore a uniform of deep black with gold trim and numerous insignia that likely denoted rank. Behind the human, Kellerus could see a command center that dwarfed his own bridge. Hundreds of crew members worked at stations. Holographic displays showed tactical information and ship statuses. Everything was orderly, professional, and clearly battle-ready. The human smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "Greetings, visitors. I am Grand Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered human territory without authorization. Please state your intentions." Kellerus found his voice. "I am Supreme Commander Kellerus of the Confederation of United Galaxies. We come peacefully to extend an invitation to humanity. The Confederation welcomes all civilized species into our great alliance." Admiral Chen's smile did not change. "I see. And this peaceful invitation requires 20 warships. The Confederation believes in demonstrating our capabilities," Kellerus replied, falling back on the standard script. "We want new species to understand the benefits of membership. Under the Confederation's protection, humanity would have access to advanced technology, trade networks spanning thousands of worlds, and security against any external threats." "And what would the Confederation require in exchange?" Chen asked. "Standard membership terms," Kellerus said. "You would acknowledge Confederation authority over matters of interstellar law and security. You would contribute resources and military support when called upon. You would open your territory to Confederation oversight. These are reasonable terms that every member species has accepted." For a long moment, Chen said nothing. Then he leaned back in his chair and pressed something on his armrest. The view screen split, showing not just Chen, but 5 other humans, 3 males and 2 females, all wearing similar uniforms. "Allow me to introduce my colleagues," Chen said. "Admiral Sarah Washington, Commander of the 2nd Fleet. Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka, Commander of the 3rd Fleet. Admiral Amara Okafor, Commander of the 4th Fleet. Admiral Dmitry Vulov, Commander of the 5th Fleet. And Admiral Sofia Rodriguez, Commander of the 6th Fleet." Kellerus felt his heart's pound. 6 fleets. The humans had 6 fleets. "We appreciate your invitation, Commander." "Kellerus," Chen continued. "However, humanity must respectfully decline. We have no interest in surrendering our sovereignty to any external power, regardless of how ancient or powerful they claim to be." "You do not understand," Kellerus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The Confederation has maintained peace across 10,000 star systems for millennia. Rejecting our offer would be unwise." "On the contrary," Admiral Washington said, her voice cool and measured. "We understand perfectly. You arrive with warships and demands for submission. You call it protection, but we recognize it for what it is. Conquest dressed in diplomatic language." Kellerus felt anger rising. "You are a young species, taking your first steps into a dangerous galaxy. You do not know what threats exist beyond your small corner of space. The Confederation offers genuine protection." Kellerus felt anger rising. "You are a young species, taking your first steps into a dangerous galaxy. You do not know what threats exist beyond your small corner of space. The Confederation offers genuine protection." Admiral Tanaka spoke next, his voice calm but firm. Perhaps you should ask yourself why we built these ships, Commander. Did you think we stumbled into this technology by accident? We have been monitoring the galaxy for over a century. We know about the Confederation. We know about your expansion methods. We know that species who refuse integration tend to face mysterious accidents shortly afterward. That is a serious accusation. Keelther said, "It is a documented pattern." Admiral Okafor added, "We have observed 19 species make first contact with the Confederation in the past 50 years. 14 joined willingly, 5 refused. All 5 experienced catastrophic system failures, terrorist attacks, or civil wars within a year. 3 are now extinct. The remaining 2 eventually joined the Confederation after their populations were reduced by 90%. The bridge was silent. Keelther wanted to deny it, but he could not. The Confederation maintained order through any means necessary. Sometimes that required eliminating problematic civilizations before they could threaten the stability of the greater galaxy. "You have been preparing for this," Ketharis said quietly. "For 137 years," Admiral Vulov confirmed. "Since we first detected Confederation scout ships at the edge of our territory, we knew this day would come. We knew you would arrive with warships and demands, so we prepared." The view screen changed, showing not just the ships surrounding the Confederation fleet, but images of massive orbital installations, planet, side defense systems, and fleets stationed throughout human space. There were hundreds of warships, thousands of defense platforms and weapon systems that made Keelther's military mind real. "This is the UES Sentinel," Chen said, as the view focused on the enormous central warship. "She is the first of our Titan-class vessels. Her primary weapon can sterilize a planet from orbit in 4 minutes. Her secondary batteries can engage 300 targets simultaneously. Her shields can withstand a supernova at close range. And she is not alone. We have 4 more Titan-class vessels under construction, with plans for 20 more." Keelthers could barely process what he was hearing. The resources required to build such vessels would bankrupt most civilizations. "This is impossible," he said. "Your planet does not have the industrial capacity for such construction." Admiral Rodriguez smiled. "You are correct. Earth alone could not build this fleet. But we are not alone. Humanity has colonized 73 worlds in the past 50 years. We have automated mining operations in 600 asteroid fields. We have fusion plants on 40 moons, providing unlimited power. And we have been preparing for this moment every single day." The view screen shifted again, this time showing a star map. It displayed human territory, and Keelther felt his stomach drop. The scouts had reported a handful of colonies. The map showed an empire spanning dozens of light years with trade routes, defensive positions, and industrial centers throughout. "You lied to our scouts," Keelther said. "We allowed them to see what we wanted them to see," Chen corrected. "We showed them our oldest colonies and our obsolete ships. We let them believe we were weak and primitive. And you believed it because you wanted to. You assumed we would be like every other young species you have encountered. That was your mistake." "What do you want?" Keelther asked. He had lost control of this situation, and he knew it. "We want to be left alone," Chen said simply. "We want to develop at our own pace, make our own decisions, and forge our own destiny among the stars. We are not interested in conquest or expansion into territories claimed by others, but we will defend what is ours with every resource at our disposal." "And if we refuse to leave?" Keelther asked, though he already knew it was a foolish question. "Then you will discover why we call this ship the Sentinel," Chen replied. His expression hardened. "You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from human space. If you are still here after that time, we will consider it an act of war. Choose wisely, Commander." The transmission ended. The view screen returned to showing the exterior view of the human fleet surrounding them. Keelther stood frozen, his mind racing through options. Every scenario ended in disaster. If he attacked, his fleet would be destroyed. If he withdrew, the Confederation would see it as weakness. But if he stayed, the humans would make good on their threat. "Commander, what are your orders?" Thessa asked quietly. Keelther looked at his officers. They were all watching him, waiting for leadership. He thought about his 200 years of service. He thought about the Confederation's 15,000 years of dominance. And he thought about the massive human warship that could end all of it, with a single shot. Begin withdrawal procedures, he said. Plot a course back to Confederation space. Maximum speed. Relief flooded the bridge. Officers moved quickly to carry out the orders. The Confederation fleet turned and began moving away from the human vessels. As they did, Keelther noticed something. The human ships did not pursue. They did not taunt or threaten. They simply watched, maintaining their perfect formation until the Confederation fleet jumped to hyperspace. During the journey home, Keelther sat alone in his quarters. He was composing a report that would change everything. For 15,000 years, the Confederation had been the dominant power in the galaxy. They had grown complacent, believing their superiority was eternal. The humans had just proven that assumption wrong. Keelther wrote carefully, documenting everything he had seen and heard. He explained the human ships, their technology, their preparation, and their resolve. He ended with a recommendation that shocked even himself. We must negotiate with humanity as equals. Any other approach will lead to a war we cannot win. The age of Confederation dominance is over. A new era has begun. The Council's decision. The report from Supreme Commander Keelthers reached the Confederation High Council 3 days after his return. Within hours, an emergency session was called. Representatives from all 7 founding species gathered in the Great Hall, a structure that had stood at the heart of the Confederation for 10,000 years. The hall was enormous, capable of holding thousands of delegates. Its walls were made of crystallized starlight, a material so rare that only 3 buildings in the galaxy possessed it. At the center of the hall sat the 7 seats, massive thrones carved from different materials, representing each founding species. The Valorians, the diplomats and strategists, the Crothans, the warriors and enforcers, the Thessians, the scientists and engineers, the Morphids, the intelligence gatherers and spies, the Luminians, beings of pure energy, who powered the Confederation's most advanced technology. The Hive, a collective consciousness of billions of insect-like beings who managed logistics and administration. And the Ancients, the oldest species in known space, who rarely spoke, but whose word was final when they did. High Chancellor Vareth of the Valorans called the session to order. Her skin was almost white with age, and her eyes had faded to gray, but her voice still commanded absolute attention. We are here to discuss Supreme Commander Keelerus's report regarding the human species. For those who have not reviewed it, I will summarize. The humans possess military technology that exceeds our own. They have been preparing for contact with the Confederation for over a century. They have rejected our offer of membership and have threatened military action if we do not respect their sovereignty. Impossible. War Chief Breather of the Crothans growled. His species stood over 3 meters tall, and his voice sounded like grinding stone. One young species cannot threaten the Confederation. Keelthers must have exaggerated the threat. Keelther stood from his seat in the observers section. With your permission, High Chancellor, I would like to address that concern. Ver nodded. Speak, Commander. I do not exaggerate, Keelther said. I have served the Confederation for 2 centuries without failure. I have conquered civilizations and negotiated with hostile powers. I know the difference between a genuine threat and a bluff. The humans are not bluffing, and their flagship alone could destroy our entire northern fleet, and they have hundreds of such vessels. Chief Scientist Merix of the Thessians spoke up. Her species resembled crystalline sculptures, their bodies translucent, and constantly shifting with internal light. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated they achieved faster than light travel only recently. The technology gap should be insurmountable. The humans are exceptional engineers and tacticians, Keelther explained. More importantly, they have been observing us for far longer than we realized. They knew we would come eventually, so they prepared. They built their industrial capacity specifically to construct a military force capable of deterring the Confederation. Shadow Master Vex of the Morphids materialized from the darkness at the edge of the chamber. His species could alter their physical form at will, making them perfect spies. I find it troubling that our intelligence network failed to detect this buildup. How did an entire species militarize without our knowledge? They showed us what we expected to see. Keelerus said, our scouts observed their oldest colonies and their obsolete vessels. The humans deliberately presented themselves as primitive and vulnerable. We believed it because it fit our preconceptions. The chamber erupted in argument. Delegates shouted accusations and theories. Some called for immediate military action against the humans. Others demanded investigations into intelligence failures. Still others suggested economic sanctions or diplomatic pressure. And silence. The voice cut through the chaos like a blade. It came from the Luminians' representative, a being of pure light named Radiance. The Luminians rarely spoke in council sessions, preferring to observe and advise in private. When they did speak, everyone listened. We are missing the larger implications. If the humans can hide their true capabilities from us, how many other species have done the same? How many potential threats exist that we have simply failed to detect? A chilling thought settled over the chamber. The Confederation's power rested on the assumption that they knew everything happening in their territory and surrounding space. If that assumption was false, their entire system of control was compromised. High Chancellor Verith raised her hand for quiet. We must approach this systematically. First, we need to verify Kelther's report. Second, we need to determine the humans' true intentions. Third, we need to decide on a response. I propose we send a diplomatic mission to human space. A diplomatic mission. Brachther slammed his massive fist on his throne's armrest. We should send the entire Southern Fleet and show these humans the price of defying the Confederation and lose that entire fleet in the process, Ver countered. Commander Kelther has stated clearly that we cannot win a direct military confrontation. Would you sacrifice millions of lives to prove a point? I would sacrifice whatever necessary to maintain Confederation authority. Brachther replied. If we allow one species to refuse membership, others will follow. Our entire system will collapse. Perhaps that system deserves to collapse. A new voice said. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Ancient One, the representative of the eldest species. The Ancients rarely attended council sessions, usually sending advisors in their place. Ancient One's presence indicated the severity of the situation. The Ancient's form was difficult to look at directly, seeming to exist partially outside normal space. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in everyone's minds rather than as sound. The Confederation was founded to bring order to chaos. Ancient One continued to prevent the catastrophic wars that nearly destroyed the galaxy 12,000 years ago. But we have become something else. We have become conquerors, who dress conquest in pretty words. The humans see through our deception. Perhaps it is time we saw through it as well. The chamber was absolutely silent. No one dared speak after an ancient expressed an opinion. I have lived for 43,000 years, Ancient One said. I remember the wars before the Confederation. I remember the billions who died. I also remember the ideals we claimed to uphold when we founded this organization. Freedom for all species. Cooperation rather than domination. Peace through mutual respect rather than through force. We have forgotten those ideals. The humans are reminding us. Veroth bowed her head respectfully. What would you have us do, Ancient One? Talk to them. Ancient One replied, not as conquerors to subjects, but as one civilization to another. Learn why they prepared for war, rather than welcoming contact. Understand their perspective, and perhaps we might learn something about ourselves in the process. And if they attack us, Brachther demanded, then we will have learned something valuable about their true nature, Ancient One said. But I do not believe they will. From what I understand of Kelther's report, the humans have shown restraint. They surrounded his fleet completely. They could have destroyed it without warning. Instead, they talked. They explained their position. They gave him time to withdraw. These are not the actions of a species eager for war. Ver looked around the chamber. All in favor of sending a diplomatic mission to human space. The vote was not unanimous, but the majority supported the proposal. Very well, Commander Kelther. You have met the humans. You understand their perspective better than anyone else in the Confederation. Will you lead this mission? Kelther felt every eye in the chamber turn toward him. He thought about the massive human warship, about Admiral Chen's unwavering confidence, about the trap he had walked into so blindly. He thought about his 200 years of service and the countless species he had helped bring into the Confederation fold. I will, he said finally, but I must go with full authority to negotiate any terms necessary for peace. I cannot be bound by standard protocols that the humans have already rejected. You will have that authority, Vareth confirmed. You will speak with the voice of the entire council. Whatever agreements you reach will be binding on all Confederation members. Brather stood up, his massive frame radiating anger. This is a mistake. We are showing weakness. We are showing wisdom, Ancient One corrected. There is a difference, though I understand that difference can be difficult for some to see. Brakther glared at the Ancient but said nothing. Even a Crothan war chief knew better than to argue with one of the eldest beings in existence. The session was adjourned. Keilther left the Great Hall with his mind already working through the challenges ahead. He needed to assemble a diplomatic team. He needed to study everything known about human culture and psychology. And he needed to figure out how to negotiate with a species that had completely outmaneuvered the Confederation's first contact attempt. 3 days later, Keilther departed on the diplomatic vessel Horizon. Unlike warships, diplomatic vessels were unarmed and designed for comfort rather than combat. The Horizon carried a delegation of 50 individuals, representing different Confederation species and specialties. There were linguists who had studied human languages, anthropologists who had analyzed human culture from long-range observations, and legal experts who understood interstellar treaty law. The journey to human space took 8 days. During that time, Keilther met with his team daily to discuss strategy. The humans had demonstrated they valued honesty and directness. So Keilther decided to abandon the usual diplomatic tricks, no manipulation, no hidden agendas, no carefully worded traps. They would approach the humans with genuine respect and see where that led. When the Horizon emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, they found a welcoming committee waiting. 5 human warships sat in formation, much smaller than the Sentinel, but still impressive, and leading them was a vessel Keilther recognized. Admiral Chen's flagship, Commander Keilther's. Chen's voice came through the communication system. Welcome back to human space. We were informed of your diplomatic mission. My orders are to escort you to Earth. If you wish to continue, we wish to continue, Keilther replied. Thank you for the escort. The journey through the Sol system took 3 hours. During that time, Keilther got his first real look at human territory. There were orbital stations around every significant planet and moon. Massive industrial complexes floated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Defensive platforms surrounded Earth itself in multiple layers. Everything he saw confirmed his worst fears. The humans had built an empire in secret, and they had done it efficiently. When they approached Earth, Keilther felt something he had not experienced in decades. A planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with green and brown continents, visible through swirling white clouds. Lights from cities sparkled on the night side. Thousands of ships moved in organized traffic patterns between the surface and orbit. Admiral Chen had been right. This was not a primitive species taking its first steps into space. This was an established civilization with the resources and will to defend itself. The Horizon docked at a massive space station above Earth's equator. As Keilther and his delegation disembarked, they were met by a human welcoming committee. At its head was a woman who introduced herself as Secretary General Amara Patel, the leader of Earth's unified government. Welcome to Earth Station Prime, she said with a warm smile. We are honored to receive the first official diplomatic delegation from the Confederation. Please follow me. We have prepared accommodations for you and your team. As they walked through the station, Keilther observed everything. The humans moved with purpose and confidence. The station was clean, well organized, and clearly designed by people who understood both function and aesthetics. He saw humans of many different appearances working together, different skin colors, different facial features, different body types. It reminded him that humanity was still a relatively young, unified species. Having only recently overcome their own internal divisions, they were led to a conference room with large windows overlooking Earth. The planet slowly rotated below them, beautiful and serene. Secretary General Pell gestured to seats around a large table. Before we begin formal negotiations, she said, I want you to understand something about humanity. We do not seek conflict with the Confederation or any other power. We simply wish to determine our own path forward. Is that something you can respect? Keilther looked at the planet below, at the fleets in orbit, at the defensive installations protecting this world. He thought about Ancient One's words about forgotten ideals. He thought about the 15,000 years of Confederation dominance and what it had really been built on. Yes, he said finally, I believe we can respect that, and perhaps in doing so, we can learn to respect ourselves again as well. Secretary General Pell smiled. Then let us begin. I think this will be the start of something new for both our peoples. As the negotiations began, Kelther realized that everything was about to change. The Confederation had maintained order through strength and intimidation for millennia. The humans were offering a different path, cooperation between equals, mutual respect, and the freedom for civilizations to choose their own destiny. It was idealistic and risky, and completely contrary to everything the Confederation had built. It was also, Ketherus realized exactly what the galaxy needed.